Hello students, I welcome you all to Augmenting Concepts. Today we are going to do reproduction in angiosperms. Because we have already done all the reproductive methodologies of plant kingdom, see my previous video to be sure about that. Today, moving forward, we will see angiosperms can reproduce asexually and sexually both. First come asexual reproduction in angiosperms. On the screen you can clearly see there are various methodologies through which an angiosperm can reproduce asexually, like through adventitious roots, suckers, runners, plantlets, tubers, rhizomes, corms and bulbs. All the methods which are shown on the screen are having the similar methods, that the roots are growing and shoots are growing and new plants are developing, and side by side they are storing nutrients also. Some of the methods are like runner, thin stems are there which are running on the ground, and at some similar intervals they are growing roots inside the grounds and shoots on the ground, thus making new plants. In the plantlets, the marginal areas of the leaves having some spots through which roots are growing and leaves are growing, and thus making new plants. Fine. In the corms also, daughter corms are developing. Rhizomes also, they are storing nutrients and growing leaves. Tubers also, they are storing nutrients and growing stems. These shoots are developing into new plants. So we will be getting details of each of the method. Here, first of all, angiosperms are flowering plants. They produce seeds inside the fruit. Angiosperms reproduce by two ways: asexually or vegetative reproduction. Asexual reproduction through tubers. Fine students, I am giving you these notes. These are very selective notes. If you write this much, you will get the full marks. The tuber is a horizontal root or a terrestrial stem which contains growing buds, as you have seen in the diagram. These are enlarged to store the nutrients. As you can see, they are swollen. These also provide the energy and nutrients for regrowth during the next growing season, and they are used by the plants to survive in winter. That means the tubers which are swollen up are preserving nutrients, with the help of which in the next season the plants will regrow. Fine. Or in the winters also, if the plants gets favorable conditions, means the accurate temperature, the accurate humidity and soil, it will be budding again and it will be growing into the new plant. Moving forward through rhizomes, these are modified stems running underground horizontally, means they are growing parallel to the ground underground. They strike new roots out of the nodes into the soil. Fine. If it will grow, it will need to grow roots also in order to get nutrients from the soil, and as a result the shoots will grow and the rhizomes will be more healthier. They also shoot new stems up the surface from their nodes. This rhizome activity represents a form of plant reproduction. These underground plant parts also store nutrients. This is clear to you? Right. Runners. When runners grow, they develop roots and buds located at nodes or their tips. Intervals between nodes or internodes are more widely spaced in runners than rhizomes, as you have seen in the diagrams difference between runners and rhizomes. Fine. Runners were thin stems and rhizomes were swollen stems. New plants arises at the node where shoots develop. This type of propagation is seen in strawberry plants. Moving forward, through adventitious roots. These adventitious roots are fleshy and develop adventitious buds. Fine. The adventitious buds can grow into new plants in favorable conditions. Again, what is favorable conditions? Well, when they will be getting appropriate environment, humidity, soil and weather, they'll grow. Such roots are called reproductive roots. Example, sweet potatoes. Then through suckers attach to the parent plant and form a dense compact mat. Means when the suckers grow, they grow so fast and so densely that it looks like a mat. Mature suckers are cut away from the parent plant and transplanted to a new area where they sprout new plants. It is the advantage of the suckers that if you detach a matured sucker from the parent plant, it can be transplanted in the new soil and a new plant will be grown over there. Then through plantlets, you have seen the leaf. These develop on the same leaf. These young plants arise from meristem tissues located along the leaf margin. Now, what is meristematic tissues? If you have seen my video, which I'll giving you the link above, you will see that what are meristematic tissues and they are responsible for the growth. So the young plants which are growing from the leaves from the meristematic tissues. What is happening? On the leaf margin there are certain spots from which the roots are growing and shoots are developing, leaves are growing, and as a result new plants are developing. These then take root in the soil and to form new plants. Fine. Plantlets may also develop from the runners of certain plants such as spider plants. Fine. What happens that what is a spider plant? If you have seen, there are big leaves, long leaves, and they are thin. Fine. And they are attached with a point. Now what happens from the mother plant? Certain sucker-like or certain thin stems grow, and on the tip of those thin stems again a new plant grows and it just looks like a spider. So this is the example of spider plant. Now moving forward, bulbs are inflated, puffed up, means the swollen part. Have you seen onion? So this is the example of onion. Parts of stems in which lie the central shoots of the new plants. Means if you have cut some onion and if it has got a green part in between, that is what? The shoots. So bulbs are inflated or puffed up parts. Means they are swollen parts of the stem and in which lies the central root. These are underground and surrounded by heavy layered leaves that provide nutrients to the new plants. Fine. If you have seen onion, what is happening in that? Leaves are in the form, it is growing in the form of leaves. Fine. So if you separate them, so these are providing the nutrient to the growing plant. Through corms, these are enlarged bulb-like underground stems. You have seen the diagram. It is dark brown colored corm. They store nutrients in the stem tissue and are surrounded by leaves. They produce adventitious roots and possess bulbs that develop into new plant shoots. You have seen the corm diagram. What is happening in that? Bulbs, daughter bulbs are growing, and through daughter buds new shoots and roots are developing. Fine. Now we'll move to the sexual reproduction of the angiosperms plants. So I believe that you have been very much clear about what is asexual reproduction and how it goes. Now moving forward, angiosperms are also called flowering plants. Several times I have told you they reproduce also sexually. reproductive organ of angiosperm is a flower. So it should be very clear to you that one and only reproductive organ which can reproduce sexually of angiosperm is flower. It produces both male and female gametes. As I have already told you, sexual reproduction means involvement of gamete, both type of gametes, male and female, and when they fuse, it is sexual reproduction. So if we talk about sexual reproduction in flowering plants or angiosperms, first of all we have to be very clear about the parts of flower. Fine. So at a glance, if you see parts of flower, you can see that there is a receptacle, there is a peduncle, ovule, sepal, petal, stamen, carpel. Fine. These are the parts of flower. If you cut the flower longitudinally, you will see it looks like this. Fine. These are the different arrangements of different whorls of the flower. Fine. Now moving forward in the slide, we will be discussing each of the part in detail. Fine. So this is parts of flower. The first is peduncle. Here you can see the diagram. It is the peduncle or the stalk by which we can hold a flower is called peduncle. On a peduncle, you have seen sometimes there is a small green leaf grows, that is called bract. Fine. Peduncle or stalk is to support the flower. When a flower is born, the internode between the receptacle and the bract is called the peduncle. What is a bract? Reduced leaf. You must have seen the leaf or the bract is quite small in comparison of the other leaves. So found at the base of the peduncle is called bract. Moving forward comes receptacle. At the end of this stalk or at the end of this peduncle comes receptacle. It is the part of the flower stalk where the parts of the flower are attached. Fine. You can see in the diagram with the receptacle all the parts of the flower are attached. Fine. Receptacle is a container for reproductive cells or organs in the plant. All the organs of the plants which you have seen in the previous slide, in a glance you can see that all the organs are attached with the help of receptacle. Moving forward, the third whorl is calyx. Means after the receptacle, the green leaved portion of the flower is called calyx. The outermost whorl of the flower is calyx. It is constituted of sepals. Means these green leaves are called sepals. Calyx are green leaf-like structures. They cover and protect the flowers during the bud stage also. You can see when the flower is a bud, the sepals are protecting the internal organs of flower. Fine. Next is corolla. Corolla is constituted of petals. The most beautiful and colorful part of the flower is the whorl corolla, where you can see the most colorful part and has fragrance also and provides nectar to the insects. Fine. Why it is so? Because it has to attract the insects. It is brightly colored to attract the insects for the purpose of pollination. Its shape and color vary in beautiful plants. Fine. Now what is pollination? You will see further that the pollen grains are when sprinkled over the stigma, that is called pollination, and because of that only the reproduction happens. So corolla plays a very important role in reproducing sexually in angiosperms. Next is androecium or stamen. In the first diagram, this is only the first diagram, I have highlighted this portion for you in which androecium or stamen is shown. Fine. So you can see this filamentous structure in which there is a filament and one bilobular portion is also there. So this is called stamen. Now this filamentous portion is called filament and this bilobular structure is called anther, and they both constitute stamen. Together both of them we say stamen. It is the male reproductive part of the flower. Each stamen is consist of an anther and a filament. It is the pollen producing part of the flower, means inside this bilobed structure pollen grains are produced. Granular powder is that. Pollen grains are produced, and when they are released they somehow reach to the stigma and reproduce sexually. Each stamen is consist of an anther and a filament. It is the pollen producing part of the flower, usually with a cylinder filament supporting the anther. This is a cylindrical filament which supports the anther, or you can say on this filament the anther is attached. Anther is the part of the stamen where pollen is produced. I have told you this is the anther, this is anther, and inside this anther pollen grains are produced. Moving forward, anther. Anthers consist of two compartments called thecae. Fine, you have seen a bilobular structure, that is anther. These are thecae. Each theca contains two microsporangia. Now these lobes are called microsporangia. These fusion of microsporangia is locule. Fine, where both microsporangia fuse, it is called locule. Fine, if we cut it transverse, if we cut this anther in a transverse section, you will see it looks like this, where microsporangium are there and pollen are inside the microsporangia are growing, and when they both fuse the portion is called locule. Yes, this is the portion is called locule. The tissue between and interconnecting two thecae is called connective. Means this is first lobe, this is the second, and in between of these two, this is the portion which is joining both of them is called connective tissue. With it filament is attached, microsporangia produce pollen grain. Now this is the structure of anther. Fine. Now moving forward, we will see how microsporogenesis happens, or microsporogenesis means the microspores or pollens, how they are formed inside the anther. Fine. You must be curious about knowing that how anthers produce pollen grains. Plus it is very important to know because we are going to study the sexual reproduction. So microsporogenesis is the process in which each microspore mother cell divides through meiosis. Each microspore mother cell divides through meiosis. Fine. Meiosis division reduces the number of chromosomes. Now if you don't know that what is meiosis, you can see like this. So recalling meiosis division reduces the number of chromosomes in the parent cell by half and produces 4 gamete cells. This process is required to produce egg and sperm cells for sexual reproduction. So in microsporogenesis, each microspore mother cell divides through meiosis. As a result, 4 haploid microspores or pollen grains are formed. Here is the diagram in which you can see this is the anther, these are the spore mother cell, this is the filament of anther. Now the spore mother cell undergoes meiosis division and forms 4 haploid microspores. Now one pollen has a generative cell and a vegetative nucleus, and this is the mature anther. And what is the role of vegetative cell and what is the role of vegetative nucleus? We will see in the further section. Moving forward, types of anther. There are many types of anther. If we categorize according to internal structure, anthers having one theca with 2 microsporangia are called monothecal anther. This is the monothecal anther diagram. Anther having 2 theca with 4 microsporangia called dithecal. Fine. This is dithecal anther. And this is anther is pollinium when a dithecal anther in which all the pollen grains of both thecae or adjacent thecae are fused together as a single mass like this. Fine, this is the pollinium anther. Fine. Now, according to the attachment position of anther to the filament, again they are classified into 4. First is basifixed anther. This is the diagram of basifixed anther. When the anther is attached from its base to the filament. Anther is attached to its base to the filament. It is basifixed anther. Dorsifixed anther. When anther is attached to the filament somewhere along its back. Somewhere along its back, when it is attached to the anther, filament is attached to the anther, it is called dorsifixed anther. Versatile anther, an anther whose attachment is near its middle and thus it is swing freely. Somewhere in the middle, the filament is attached to the anther and it can be moved freely to and fro. That type of anther is called versatile anther. Versatile anther can be dorsifixed and basifixed both. Then adnate. When anther is fixed by its whole length to the filament. When the whole length of anther is fixed with the help of the filament, it is called adnate anther. Now moving further, you can see the next whorl of the flower, that is gynoecium, pistil or carpel. These are the 3 names: gynoecium, pistil or carpel. For you, I have highlighted the diagram of gynoecium portion. The female reproductive structure of the flower is called gynoecium. You can see here it is the same diagram, I just highlighted it. This is the female reproductive portion. It is consists of 3 structures: stigma, the uppermost part, the style, the neck of the carpel, and ovary, which is the swollen or round part. These are called carpel as a unit. The whole thing is called carpel as a unit. Gynoecium is the female reproductive unit which later makes fruit. Fine. Now 5th whorl is completed. Moving forward, we will see the structure of the gynoecium in detail. Stigma. It is the top of the female reproductive unit of a flower. Fine. It is called stigma or head of the pistil. It remains exposed in the air. If you have seen the flower, you can see something which is exposed up and highly in the air. That is called stigma. What is the function of stigma? They stick pollen grains on them. Allow pollen grains only of that species, means only the pollen grains of the particular species can enter the flower. Germination of pollen grains. The pollen grains will germinate, then they can fuse the egg cell. No? Initiation of fertilization. is through stigma. Initiation means starting of fertilization. Assisting pollen tube towards ovule. The pollen grain produces a pollen tube which is guided towards the ovule, and that thing is done with the help of stigma. Stigma guides this pollen tube towards the ovule. Next is style. Style is stalked and filamentous structure. You have seen the long neck. It joins stigma and ovary. If you want to recall the diagram, you can go back into the video and see. Pollen falls on the stigma, the uppermost part, and travels down through the style. A style grows from the basal whorl or ovary. From where the style originates? From the basal whorl, that is ovary. Style acts as a transmitting tract of made up of transmitting tissues where the pollen tube grows. Transmitting means which allows to pass through it. That is transmitting tract. And what type of tissue is the style made of? Transmitting tissues. Moving forward, the ovary. Gynoecium or ovary are of three types. Ovary contains the female gamete is called ovule. A pollen grain travels down to the style to the ovary, fuses with the ovule or microsporangia. As a result, the process of fertilization initiates. The ovary protects the microsporangia, megasporangia that has megaspores. If I have spoken here microsporangia, pardon me. A pollen grain travels down from the style to the ovary and fuses with the ovule or megasporangia. As a result, the process of fertilization initiates. The ovary protects the megasporangia that has megaspores. Ovary also produces ovule. When a gynoecium has only one carpel, it is monocarpous or unicarpellate gynoecium. When a gynoecium has multiple and distinct carpels, it is called apocarpous or chlorocarpous gynoecium. When a gynoecium has multiple and fused carpels, it is called syncarpous gynoecium. Now moving forward, you will see the diagrams of these gynoeciums. These are the type of ovaries. Apocarpous, which is having 3 gynoeciums, looks like this, and if you get a transverse section, it will look like this. This is syncarpous. Syncarpous can be of 2 types. Syncarpous tetralocular, syncarpous unilocular. 4 carpels are there and 4 locules are there. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Tetra, this is, yes, unilocular. 3 carpels are there and 1 locule is there. Now this is monocarpous. Only single ovary is there. Fine. Now students, we will see the whole thing at a glance. That we can study. We have seen that angiosperm's reproductive organ is flower, and also in addition we have studied different part of the flower in detail. Now we will see how we can study a flower. This is for an additional information, the floral diagram and floral formula also, that how can we study. So what is a floral diagram? A floral diagram is a pictorial method of representing the structure of a flower. Fine. If you want to pen down that how the flower looks, take any random flower, and if you want to pen down the structure, how will you do it? With the help of floral diagram, you will do this. Fine. What does a floral diagram shows? Different parts of the flower, fine, with the help of different symbols. Through a floral diagram, we can represent the floral organs. Floral organs are petal, sepal, main axis, stamen, ovary, nectar, bracts. Fine. their arrangement and fusion, how they are arranged inside the flower and how they are fused or not fused. Different parts of flowers represented by their assigned symbols. These are the different symbols which are assigned for representing a flower parts. This is the main axis. These are the sepals we have seen. This is a floral diagram actually. Fine, this is a diagram, floral diagram, in which this symbol represents main axis. This symbol represents sepal. This is petal. This is anther. You have seen stamens. These are the representation of stamen. Fine, this is the ovary. This is the nectar gland and this is the bract, which is on the peduncle. Fine. So this was for the additional information that how is floral diagram made and how it is shown. Fine. Now moving forward, how we construct a floral formula. On this slide you can see floral formula mainly consists of 5 symbols: floral symmetry, number of sepals, number of petals, number of stamens and number of carpels. If you pen down a structure of a flower, you will use all these types of symbols. Bracteate flower, if the flower is having bract, it will be written as BR. If it is not having bract, it will be written as EBR, that is ebracteate. Calyx, K. Polycephalus calyx, KN. Like this, all these. Gamosepalous calyx, corolla. Polypetalous, gamopetalous, perianth, androecium, gynoecium. Superior ovary, when the ovary is situated upside. Inferior ovary, superior ovary, how will you show it? Line beneath G, and line up above the G is inferior ovary, when the ovary is situated submerged. This is the male flower, this is female flower, bisexual flower, antimorphic flower, zygomorphic flower. And this is the floral formula of a tomato flower. Fine. Now, this is just an additional information that how can you construct a floral formula, what are the symbols used inside in the floral formula. Fine. Now moving forward, we will continue with our main topic, that is reproduction in angiosperms, and in that also sexual reproduction. Now that we come on pollination. Now we have already discussed that what is pollination. When the anther produces pollen grains, those pollen grains come to the stigma, that is called pollination. Pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma, right? Pollination is of two types: self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination is what? When the pollen is deposited on the stigma of the same flower or another flower on the same plant. Means the flowers on the same plant, when they are pollinating by themselves, it is called self-pollination. And what is cross-pollination? When pollen is transferred from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower on a different individual of the same species. Means same species, two plants, two flowers are pollinating with each other, that is cross-pollination. Fine. Now, how is pollination important? Pollination is significant or important for both plants and pollinators. Pollinators, who are pollinators? The insects which are carrying the pollen grains from anther to stigma are pollinators. Pollination causes production of seeds and plants to reproduce. Fine, that is very obvious that when the anthers produce pollen grains, those pollen grains will stick to stigma and only then the seeds will be produced as a result of fertilization. Pollinators receive nectar, pollen from the flowers that they visit. Means pollinators receive nectar which they use it as a food, and the pollen which are used for the next plant for pollination. I hope this topic is clear to you. Moving forward comes fertilization. After pollination comes fertilization. What is the general definition of it? That fertilization is a process of fusion of haploid egg and sperm to form the diploid zygote. Clear? Now what is double fertilization? To understand double fertilization, just have a look on this diagram. This is a embryo sac, mature embryo sac, which is having two polar nuclei and one egg cell, two synergid cells. Fine. So what happens in this? After penetrating the degenerated synergids, means after penetration of this area, the pollen tube releases two sperms into the embryo sac. Now this is the time to recall the diagram of the pollen, which you have seen in the microsporogenesis slide. What we have seen there, that a pollen grain has one vegetative cell and one sperm cell. Fine. So one sperm cell, two sperm cells are released into the embryo sac. Fine. One sperm fuses with the egg and forms the zygote. Means this egg cell is fused with the sperm cell, and another the second sperm or the vegetative sperm fuses with the polar nuclei of the central cell. Polar nuclei as a result forms a triple fusion or endosperm nucellus. Fine. One zygote is formed and one endosperm is formed. Fine. So this is called double fertilization, because along with the true fertilization, what is true fertilization? Fusion of sperm and egg. Along with the true fertilization, there is another fusion process that occurs, that is just like fertilization. What is the other fusion? That fusion of sperm with the polar nuclei. I hope it is clear. Now moving forward, now you can see the diagram, development of embryo sac, that how the embryo sac develops, and this is the diagram of double fertilization. So first of all, we will see development of embryo sac. These I have shown these diagrams, and I have given these additional information just to enrich you with the whole process, the knowledge of whole process. Fine. So these are the diploid megaspore mother cell, diploid cell, 3 degenerated cells are there, 4 haploid cells are there. Okay. Now from that, one haploid megaspore or embryo sac is developed. Fine. How it develops? Through mitosis it develops. Fine. Mitosis, it undergoes mitosis, makes 2 nuclei, then it makes 4. Then finally what happens? Ovum egg cell is developed and 2 polar nuclei are developed. Finally in the it looks like this mature embryo sac. With this embryo sac, the pollen grain is going to be fused. Fine. Now this is the diagram of double fertilization. This embryo sac is situated here in the female reproductive part. Fine. Here what is happening? These 2 synergid cells are situated here, and this egg cell is situated here. Fine. Okay. And polar nuclei are present on their own place. Fine. Now this is the pollen grain, and pollen tube is being developed. You have seen there are 2 pollen sperms are there. One is generative nucleus and other is tube nucellus. Simple. Now what is happening? This pollen tube is penetrating from the micropylar region, and 2 sperm cell released. Fine. It has penetrated the synergid area and reached to the egg cell. Fine. Now here what is happening? Synergids are here, sperm cells are here, and egg cell is here. One sperm cell fuses with the egg cell, another sperm cell is fused with the polar nuclei. Fine. Now like this, two fertilizations are happening over here. So this is double fertilization. Clear, students? Moving forward, seed and fruit formation. Seed and fruit formation. Fine. So finally, sexual reproduction in angiosperm ends with this seed formation. This is the stigma, pollen grain. The pollen tube is developing. Style is assisting the pollen tube to reach to the ovule. Here two synergids and one egg cell and two pollen nuclei are present. This is fertilization stage. And after the fertilization, it is fertilized ovary in which seed is formed and seed is covered with the fruit pulp. Fine. So after pollination and fertilization, carpel develops into the fruit. Fine. Carpel or the female reproductive organ, the whole thing is developed into the fruit. We eat ovary and the seeds within the ovule. Fruit growth regulated by the hormones produced by the developing seed. So means the seed releases some kind of growth regulatory hormones which regulates the growth of the fruit. Fine. So students, like this we conclude our topic reproduction in angiosperms. Fine. Now if you have any questions or if you have any suggestions or doubts in your mind, please do write me in the comment section. This is a very helpful session for the science students competing in whatever class they are. This is helpful from 8th to NEET exams also because it has got additional informations. Fine. Thank you very much, students.